Welcome back to Your Family Dog Podcast and part 2 of our episode with Bob Deeds. He has so much knowledge and so many amazing stories. We just had to let him keep talking. So, welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of the Bob Deeds interview. I'm sure that there will be more. If you haven't listened to part 1, you might want to go back and listen to that first. And so now, on with the show.
One of the things that I've seen, and I apply this to like all of my clients, is what we were talking about earlier, where there's so many tools, and that knowing how to apply the tools. I am huge. I tell my clients, videotape, 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 videotape. When I teach a seminar, I'll if people don't know how to do it, I'll show them how to upload to YouTube, how to send me the link. I say you can even send it to me as an unlisted link.
Right.
Nobody else will get it unless you send it to them. My nose work client, I have a class, a series that I teach called the Nose Knows. And it's both. I can teach GeoScenting, and then I've got another class that's competition, scent class. Two different groups. Some of them are in both classes, but it's so cool now because it's hard for me now to even keep up with the videos. They post videos that include everybody in the class, and I'm sitting back watching my students coach each other.
And
I
love it when it gets to
oh
that
my
point.
God.
Like, it's so much
I
fun.
literally, I sat there for a week, seriously, and I'm watching.
And you learn. I mean, if
and
you're
I'm not even commenting other than to say, nice video, good job.
very
But I'm
great.
watching them teach each other. And there was not a single thing. It was all coming out, a couple of them had some innovative ideas. They're saying, well, I had to do this a little bit. There was stuff I hadn't really taught. They just sort of figured out. There were a couple of them that were saying, okay, well, remember when Bob was talking about this, you can apply that here, and that is just, oh man, it's the coolest thing. And I've really tried to include that. Even if I do a private lesson, we'll have private lesson packages, which we really try to push. And it's not because we make more money, because actually per lesson, we make a lot less money. I mean, a lot less money than we do for a single lesson. But every now and then I'll get a client that says, I just want a single lesson. And a lot of times in the Memphis area, I think there's a big problem with people paying for stuff and then people not following through. And just in life,
I
and
don't think that's
we've had
a problem.
Well, in Texas, I never had that problem. In Memphis, though, I've been ripped off by a couple of contractors. I've got a CPA right now that's disappeared, and it's been a nightmare, one thing after another. But in Texas, everything I did in Texas, we did a handshake. I'd cut you a check, and they came back and finished stuff. So, but it's kind of been a problem here. So people, they want to do a lot of single lessons to start. And then a lot of times they come back and say, okay, let's do a package.
Now we'll do a package. Now that I know that this is a good fit.
Yeah. And which is
and
fine.
I grandfather
and I don't
people
blame
when
them.
they do that. Like I grandfather people when we do that.
Yeah, I don't blame them for doing that, and I will certainly do the same thing. But anyway, do the single private lesson, and I'll even take time with that client at the end of the lesson and say, videotape. Have you ever done YouTube? This is how you do YouTube. This is how you send it. I'll send them a write-up, and I'll write that process down. In fact, it just reminded me I've got to do a write-up for a lesson I did last week. But the video stuff is wonderful, and I will tell them when you start videoing. Like I've got a new puppy now that I'm videoing stuff, and with a lot of dogs here, if I'm working with a client dog and the session goes really good that I videotape, I don't even save it. I'll just delete it, and then I video again the next session. There's no reason for me to watch it if the session went good. If I had something during that session where it either didn't go good or I had to, what I call change on the fly, which is kind of a Bob Bailey thing. If it ain't working, do something different, if I have to do that during the session, I'll go back and I'll really analyze everything. Did it not go good to begin with because I was using poor mechanics? Did it not go good to begin with because maybe it was a timing issue, which would be mechanics? But did it not go good to begin with and I was slow to pick it up? Why did I have to change? Or was that change really necessary and fruitful? And that's what I look for. And then, of course, when a session doesn't go good, I want to see, okay, what happened? Like I was working with my puppy yesterday. I'll give you an example. And I'm working on, I'm doing some platform work, which is going to lead into in urban search and rescue, we used to call this directional control. And it's off leash stuff where we can send our dog all different directions away from us. It's one of the things that I introduce when I teach GeoScenting. And I started to work with my puppy, and the session was going pretty good. And he got a little bit distracted. I say he, she. I've had all boys the last 3 dogs, and I have a female. She got distracted, and the session kind of fell apart a little bit, and then the platform almost became poisoned a little bit. So I just did a lot of feeding on the platform. I ended it, ended the session, put her away. I went back and looked at the video, and I could see there was a period in about 3 or 4 repetitions where latency started to creep in. From the moment I reinforced until the moment she offered the next behavior, responded to the next cue, there was latency which started to creep in. I didn't notice it, but I also didn't respond to it. I didn't do anything like I could have done. Ken Romero's concept of least reinforcing scenario, where you switch to something else that the dog is really good at just to get that rate of reinforcement up. I could have made that change there. I caught myself screwing up, and then I saw what it led to it. And it was cool because I'm watching and I go, man, you knew better than that. You knew better than that. You're better than that. And so I haven't trained this afternoon yet, where she's just gotten old enough now. She's at right on the cusp of like 12 weeks. So she's at the point where I can do, I usually replace the food bowl with the training session and then feed what else I have to feed afterwards. She's at a point now where I can do a couple of training sessions a day and get away with it. So I haven't done her afternoon training session, so I'm going to do it after you and I wrap up. But I realized where I made the mistake, what I needed to do to fix it. Got to pay attention. May have had a little bit too much on my mind when I went into the training session. Bad Bob, my fault. But that's the stuff that, knowing how to apply those tools, back to what we were talking about earlier, you got to have that in place. When I teach GeoScenting, not only do I teach the tools, but I also try to write out and lay out, this is when you apply these tools. This is in the process when it comes. And it's all built around like knowing what scent is doing, knowing what I have to do now based on that. Watching what my dog is doing. What's my tempo? What's my pace like? Worked with a student last week. I'd set up some outdoor stuff around the building, and it's actually his dog's wife, but he's wanting to participate too. So he's working his dog's wife, his wife's dog.
That was super cute, though. So I was going to just leave it.
Yeah, his dog, his wife's dog, but he wanted to participate too. So he's doing a run also. And I'm watching and I see her, doing the, oh my gosh, watching him. And I say, okay, this is something that's biting you on the rear a little bit. You're moving really, 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 really slow. And this is a very high drive Labrador Retriever. So I explained to him, you got to work fast. He said, well, I'm afraid I'm going to miss something. I said, we can fix that. But right now, the most important part is that you work at this dog's tempo, and he said, well, I just thought he's going too fast. He's going to miss stuff. I said, no, your wife was working him this past year. She's got him really good at detailing stuff. So watch him. If he's moving really fast and you see a head snap, but he doesn't follow up, maybe that's when you interject yourself and you just spin him around and you follow up on it. But the big thing is you've really got to move fast, when that happens, and you got to keep moving. And so getting him to get that tempo, that was one thing. So the next couple of times he ran that day, he came out, he was at a better tempo. The dog nailed it. Um, uh, the dog, the stress level wasn't there, where the dog was kind of going, come on, and constantly, self-correcting himself, hitting the end of the leash and stuff like that. And so it just worked a lot better. But that was one of those things that he had some of the tools, but one of the tools was also knowing your dog, knowing the tempo, knowing the pace, stuff like that. So that's one of the things that I also work on when I teach geoscenting. You got to look at everything. It's just one big picture.
So the average person listening to the podcast today with their dog and their kids, what would you see as the advantage of teaching their dog geoscenting for that family?
First and foremost, it's an activity that's designed. Well, it wasn't designed like this originally, but it was one of the byproducts of it. It enhances the relationship between the owner and the dog. And if you look at, like, if I send out an email, and I have several signature things that are saved to Outlook, like I have a Canine Connection one, and it has Bob and Karen deeds and some stuff underneath about Canine Connection. If I send out one that has my GeoScenting signature, it has Bob deeds, or GeoScenting Bob deeds, forever owned by Canine Kinsey. I get kind of teary-eyed when I think about that, because she was my heart dog. I was changing my teaching training at that time from punishment-based training, not even balanced, I mean punishment-based, to positive reinforcement-based training, and she learned how to do it in spite of me and taught me everything, So I know what that search aspect did to our relationship, in urban search and rescue. All the times that I asked her to risk her life for my country, and she did it without question. And then when I've seen my clients that, like I told you about the big mastiff that entered the room, and by the end of about 8 weeks, he was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he was doing, "Oh, pardon me, I've got to go search now." And then he would go off and do his deal. And I would see that. In fact, I think a couple of the videos online, if you look up, GeoScenting online, you'll see him in a couple of the videos. And when I see that or saw that happen, and I realized I've changed this dog's life.
Mm-hmm. And the family.
And I would see the owner, and the owner's like teary-eyed going, "Oh my God, this is so incredible. And I've changed this owner's life."
Yes.
Okay, GeoScenting became bigger than me. That's why there's some stuff out there. There's another company, I can't even think what it's called, or an organization, and it's Geo something. I don't remember what it is, but it's the same thing. And they've maybe it was a 13th monkey deal, and they came up with the idea on their own. Cool if they did. Maybe they saw what I was doing and saw, well, he's really not marketing this, so I'm going to take it and run with it. Cool beans. Do it.
Right, just more cool things to
teach it with positive reinforcement based methods, My dog, for some reason, thinks there's somebody at the door, but there's not. Teaching with positive reinforcement-based methods enhance the life of the dog and enhance the life of the owner, and you can run with it. I don't care. I just I want to make your life better, and I want to make your dog's life better, and that's what Geo-Scenting is.
So does Dog Scouts exist in every state?
No, it's coming out. We actually started a chapter a dog scout group here in Texas, in Memphis. I mean, in Memphis,
I'd like to
the
talk to you
Texas
about
group.
that.
Oh, we'll talk about that. In fact, we
I
can do
might want to
a
start
whole separate podcast on
Yeah,
that. They
yeah.
started one in the biggest one is in Texas, and it was Mart and Cindy Ratcliffe started that. Mart is he's a sheriff's deputy with Tarrant County Sheriff's Department, hoping in a couple of more years to become a dog handler. I can't wait till he gets to do that. But Mart and Cindy started it. They actually helped me get my GeoScenting badge pushed through because they have a badge now. They're doing a camp in November in Texas. It's like used to be a 3-day, now it's the 4-day camp. And Karen and I have been teaching for most of 25 years now at camps, or at least 20 years out of those 25 years, since that first one she suckered me into. And it's an incredible. We have a meeting every month. We get together. We're going to do some cool stuff. I'm talking to the Memphis Zoo to try to get us in so we can do a behind the scenes deal at the Memphis Zoo. That'll be a meeting where we don't take our dogs. It'll just be us,
Right.
going. Most of the meetings we take our dogs. We've learned, we've done platform work. We've learned some behavior stuff. The only charges at all is to the national group. Like on our local level, we don't charge anything. This country has been very good to me. They gave me an opportunity to do something to serve them, which is not something everybody gets to do. There was like at the time that the World Trade Center happened, at that time there was only about 325 dogs that were trained to that level in the entire United States. And by that level, I don't mean better than, like the volunteer handlers, because most of search and rescue is volunteer. And I know people in the volunteer world that I'm not worthy to even tie their shoelaces. They're incredible.
They're phenomenal.
But I'm talking about trained to that level of the rubble situation, which is different. There's no such thing as fake rubble. It's a different thing, different world. And at that time, there were only about 325 dogs in the entire United States that were trained to that level. It may have even been less than that. But anyway, I've been very blessed. I've always tell people when they say, well, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a dog trainer. And I've never really had a real job, it's pretty cool what I get to do, other than having to deal with income taxes right now. But the rest of it's really cool. But anyway, that's why I created GeoScenting. It is a cool, phenomenal activity. If you have a dog that's brand new in it, you can make the problem really easy for them. If you have a dog that is a rock star, already knows how to do all the competition stuff, they can do it. Think about when you go to trial, for example, it costs a lot of money to spend a weekend at trial. How cool would it be in the evening to get off and pull up your phone and say, where are some geocaches around here? Oh, cool. You don't know if they're scented. So under the description, whenever I sent a cache or somebody else came up with this idea, is under the description of the cache, we mark on there GSC, which means geo-scented cache. So when you search for a cache, one of the things you can look at under the reviews of the cache is GSC, and see if somebody has scented that cache. If they haven't scented, go find it first.
Go find it and put
Scent
some
it,
clove in
then
it.
come back and now let your
And
dog
change it.
find it and change it to GSC. And now everybody after that can go scent that cache. Now, let me tell you another little thing, and this is very important. You know this as a trainer. You start to work with somebody, you get something in place, and that person goes to another trainer or a seminar, and they change everything, and they come back, and everything that you've done is kind of discombobulated. So one of the things that I did when I first started to look at this, I was actually looking at a different odor. And then when I saw that NACSW was using clove oil as the third odor, they have anise and birch. I think they do birch first, anise, and then clove. And then a lot of people started doing what they call soups, where they would throw everything together and teach it all at once. Well, the research has come out now and said that's not the most effective way to imprint odor. They say it's really more effective to do it one at a time. And there is research to back that up. But when I picked clove oil, I did it on purpose because I didn't want to take people that were brand new to the sport, have them go out and start, or even coming to me and me screwing up what some other trainer had been teaching I didn't want to mess with another trainer's work. So I picked that. I was very thoughtful when I picked that odor out. Now it's not that big a deal. I did have somebody, I had a seminar planned once, and I had somebody, I won't even mention names because it doesn't matter. And they talked to my wife, and I think they kind of felt bad about what happened. But with a national platform, they said, oh, you can't do GeoScenting because it'll mess up everybody that's doing geocaching. And since then, that person is starting doing search and rescue. And they've realized that, well, there's live people all over the place, and it doesn't mess up my search and rescue dog. So they've kind of realized it. So no harm, no foul. I don't care. Right. It did cost me a seminar that I had planned. I had a bunch of people that were signed up back out of it, but coulda, woulda, shoulda, doesn't matter. It's cool now. I'm very cool. I love this person. This person's a really nice person, and they do really nice work, and they teach really well. I don't think they intended for that to happen. So even though we haven't really talked about it since then, peace be with them. I think they're cool, and I think that it's all going to work out in the long run. Anyway, where GeoScenting is concerned, I've done a lot of stuff. I know this stuff. I know the industry. I know NACSW. I've got a lot of AKC students. I'm not going to mess up anything. I'm going to be very cognizant of it. I'm not going to say blow up what you're doing, but let me give you some more tools to throw on the wall.
Right.
It's that shotgun approach to training that every time I get a dog in front of me, I don't care if it's a dog that I've trained 1,000 times. I've got a lot of arrows in my quiver, and I will adapt as I go through stuff. I think that's better than totally getting the dog out like you were talking about earlier and just changing everything right off the start. You'll blow a dog up like that, and I'm not going to do that. There are occasions when sometimes the dog needs to be blown up, but it's very rare. It's very rare. Yeah, and I don't advocate that unless you really know what you're doing.
Right. And I will say I've had 2 cases in 30 plus years where we did a board and train and changed the dog's name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So took the dog in, changed the food, changed the leash, changed the collar, crated in a different kind of crate, did some training, like just started over, and then met the family at a park and introduced them to Banjo.
Mm-hmm.
Their dog from the past who had a lot of baggage.
Whose name was poisoned. Yeah.
Whose name was poisoned and whose relationship was poisoned, and the dynamic between them was poisoned, and not because anybody did anything wrong or bad. Just something happened in the relationship. It got poisoned, and I'm desperately trying to put like Humpty Dumpty back together again. And we decided we're going to change this dog's name, change their collar, and act as if it is a completely new dog when it comes home.
Yeah,
And
I
amazing how well it works. Thank goodness we don't have to do it very often because it is a very odd conversation to have.
yeah, I had a rescue dog that I trained for a client. It was a new dog to him. He'd had it for about 90 days. German Shepherd. Don't remember the dog's name. This has been probably 15 years ago. And started working with him. And when I got to teaching him a down, um, when we started working on the behavior, I started to shape it at first, and that was kind of going nowhere. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to just lure. I'm not proud. I'll lure. So I started to lure the behavior, and I noticed him getting kind of antsy. And I have a couple of rules about when I'll put something on cue. If it's a precision behavior, I will not put it on cue until that behavior is about 85 to 90% in place.
Agreed.
An exception to that is if it's a complex behavior with a lot of chains in it, like a heel, like a competition heel, I may put it on cue early on so the dog at least knows what we're working on. And then I'll do a cue transfer later and put it on the real name,
The real cue.
going from,
Right, like a rough draft cue.
yeah, from heel to foos, something like that. And so this particular dog, I started working on it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go ahead and name this down pretty soon after I'd gotten him lured a couple of times into position. And the first time I even started to lure and actually modified my lure where I didn't go down as far, and he went into the behavior. I said the word down, and he yelped, got up, and ran to the kennel door. And I went over and I just opened it and let him go in there. And I go, what just happened? And I'm going back and I'm watching the video, and I'm seeing a little bit more tension and him getting a little bit more antsy the longer I'm luring into that position. And then when I said that word, he freaked. And I knew right then and there that there had been something that was put in with that word and that behavior that was horribly poisonous.
Something happened.
And so I went back to the point where I had gotten good stuff out of him, and I would do like a couple of lures and I would love on him and we would go do something else. And then I would get a couple of more lures and love on him or just sit and hang out with him and then do something else. Or maybe I would sit and hang out with him and he would kind of get bored and lay down, and I would just feed the bejeebers out of that.
Right.
And I took about 3 weeks of just very, very slow stuff and then introduced the word lay. And the behavior was fine then after that. And I took him to the client's house and I said, whatever you do, do not say DOWN.
DOWN. Right.
Yeah.
So I had the first Doberman that I personally owned, not my family.
Right.
Pulled on leash. We got him at like 18 months. He was pulling on leash. So my mother, who had been breeding and showing dogs since 1979, Doberman Pinschers in particular, decided that she was going to put a prong collar on him and give him a correction for pulling on the leash.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happened to him before we owned him. I know we never gave him a harsh correction. I would not say that the correction my mother gave him was harsh, though not really how I handle my dogs, right? So different, not something that he would have experienced at our house previously. He jumped on her back and raked his nails down her back in a panic. And I said, we're not doing this.
It was the expectation of the correction that was to follow.
What was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Right now, I have a dog on my service who, if anyone, including owners, wave, an open hand wave, the dog loses it.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is when I'm like, oh, I want an animal communicator to get in there and dig around and tell me what in the world, like, how did that story start?
Right.
And I mean, I could hazard a guess that people wave before they come over, and this dog is hesitant. And so she's like, nope, that is the signal that I'm going to say, do not come over here. You're scaring me.
Right. Right.
And so we'll work on it. Like, we'll work on it, but it's interesting. And I think people don't always realize that something weird can happen. For example, someone could wave, and at the same time, an errant bolt of lightning out of nowhere on a sunny day strikes a tree and explodes. And now the dog is terrified of waving because that happened to be what they were looking at when this overwhelming thing occurred. Right? That
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be someone's fault.
Right.
It could be, but we don't know.
Yeah.
We just know that it's a problem for the dog. So if somebody wanted to get started GeoScenting, how would you tell them the best way to get started is?
Well, let's say if it's somebody that is just out there, and they listen to this or whatever, and they're interested in doing it, I would look up, positive reinforcement Scentwork, positive reinforcement nose work, something like that. Most of it's going to be anyway. Even the balance trainers, if you look at people online, the way they're teaching nose work is pretty cool, so and that's something that was learned a long time ago. Last thing you want to do is poison odor, just stress diminishes drive, and you don't want to do that. So find out how to do imprinting, look at a bunch of different methods and for imprinting and do them all. Generalization and imprinting, you're kind of go hand in hand, as far as the dog figuring that out. Look at, training, indications. One of the things even in ACSW, when they find odor, once you get into the second level, you'll holler alert. And that way the judge knows that, that they found odor. And most of the time, they'll say alert and you know exactly where it was. Every now and then I'll have to say, where do you think it is? If I was writing something at the moment they called alert, the dog's already moved on, I may ask them. But 99% of the time I know because I can see the dog there. When I teach, one of the things I teach is I try to draw a difference between indication and alert, because alert can be a bunch of natural behaviors that happen. But for the sake of the sport, alert and indication are used kind of interchangeably, but the verbiage is always alert. NACSW started off without doing a trained indication. And now all these dogs in competition are just sitting there like this with their nose just right on source. And that same handler will look at me later and say, well, I don't have a trained indication. I'm going, right. They don't even realize they do, but they've done it so consistently that it is a trained indication. Yeah. So anyway, train your indication. Your life will be better because of it. There's a bunch of videos out on doing it. I do seminars. If you get a group of people there around your area that are interested in doing it, I will guarantee a fun weekend. It is absolutely a blast. Well, you need to learn scent propagation. That's probably one of the harder parts to get online. There's some books out there. Syrotuck, and I'm going to butcher this, but I believe it's spelled Syrotuck. I do not remember the first name because this is from like 35 years ago. Wrote a book on scent and the scenting dog. And it's primarily about propagation of odor in the outdoor environment. Okay, the indoor environment has the same propagation, but it's all in micro elements.
Right.
The way scent moves.
Aquarium versus a lake.
Yeah, and it's just like these little micro changes, and indoor searching is much harder than outdoor searching. You simply walk by odor and you can disrupt what the odor's doing in the room. So that's one of those things where if you go to like a police dog school where they're training police handlers, one of the old things they used to say constantly, and they may still do it, is say, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And, because a lot of times searching vehicles, it's not as big a deal, but going indoors, movement is not always your friend indoors.
Okay, so a quick question for dullards like me. What is geocaching?
Geocaching is an activity that's out there. In fact, you can go to geocaching.com. I'm going to pull something up on my phone and see if I can hold it in front of the screen. Um, See if it shows, figure out how to make it show up. There's a little app right here, and it goes to a website like this, like that's got a map on it. And if I make that map smaller, you see all those dots? Can you see that on my phone? I
Oh,
don't know
it's
if it'll show
blurred,
up.
but I can
Okay.
figure it out.
Go to geodesking.com. You can get a free membership, and it'll limit, like you can do like I don't know this for a fact, but it's like 3 to 5 caches a day you can look up. I'm a advanced membership or whatever it's called, so I can get unlimited numbers of caches. But there are literally this area that I'm looking at in the Memphis area. I can't even tell you how many caches there are. I'm looking at probably well over 300 caches just in the Memphis area alone, easily. And a cache can be several things. Like right up the street from where I live. I live in a really cool area. We're less than a mile from the Mississippi and the Lisahatchee River, and there's actually a historical marker from the Civil War, 300 feet from my house, right up the road. And there's a cache that's in a game preserve, which is also right up the road from where we live, that's called a puzzle cache. And in order to, it's in a series of 3 caches. And in order to find the coordinates to the next cache, you have to have the first cache. Well, on geocaching.com, it'll send a coordinate to your phone, and your phone kind of acts as a GPS, and it takes you to the area where that cache is. In fact, it'll take you within just a couple of feet of it, even closer than that. But they're not that easy to find sometimes. You have to look up in trees or in a hole or underneath a park bench, or, they'll have a magnet that'll be stuck behind the sign, something like that. So the puzzle cache, you open it up. I've done this one. You open it up and it gives you the coordinates for the next cache. And it has maybe some little question in it that's actually a clue for the next cache. Okay, that would be a puzzle cache. A traditional cache will be some type of a container, and people will put little trinkets in it. Sometimes it's a coin. It's a geocache coin. I've actually had a series of coins that were given to me by my task force that were having to do with the World Trade Center and the response after 9/11. I put a couple of those caches in different caches, and um, I've gotten private messages, because I put online that I had put that coin in. And so people immediately, they want to get that coin, so they start looking for that cache. The coin ended up in Iraq at a
Oh,
cache,
wow.
and a soldier found it. He wrote me back and said, "Hey, dude, I saw you were at the World Trade Center. I'm over here right now. Thanks for your service." And I say it was a soldier; it was actually an Air Force pilot. And when later on, we corresponded back and forth. Later on, he actually had a stint for a week at the Joint Reserve Base in Fort Worth, and he gave me my coin back because it was 5 miles as the crow flies from where we lived in the Fort Worth area.
Wow.
So it was really cool. And then I put it in another cache again later, and let it go out again. But you can get geocache coins. A lot of it's little trinkets. Like I'll go to a dollar store and buy a package of plastic army men, and I'll put one of those in, and you
Right.
sign it. Well, if you find it with your dog, if you're doing Geo-Scenting, I'd sign it with me and I'd put my dog's name down, found by, canine, like I've got Sweet C right now as my little lab puppy, so I'm I've always taught Geo-Scenting. I've never actually gotten to do it myself because I've always had my students doing it. And I've always been coaching people to do it. Well, Sweet C is going to be my first dog that I'm actually going to get to go out, just she and I, and no students around, and actually find these caches and scent them and stuff. So I'm really excited bringing her up right now. But geocaching, though, is just it's a list, and it gives you the coordinates, and it's a way to upload it to your phone, and it's very easy. I bet where you live there, you're in a college town, so
I
I'll
bet
be
there's
willing to
tons.
bet you within probably 10 miles of where you live, I bet easily there's probably anywhere from 5 to 15 caches easily, especially in a college town. Um, I've always thought this would be really fun. Uh, you've seen these deals where you have a sniff spot, where people can go out and bring their
Right.
dog and have a sniff spot. I'm actually that's something that we want to do on our property here, and we're trying to set it up where we can do a sniff spot in the back. I want to do a geocache actually on my property, where people can come out and find it, but have it as a scented geocache, and explain to people the only restriction is that they have to let their dog find it. So if they want to learn how to do this, they can. I think it would be a lot of fun to do that like that. But anyway, that's basically geocaching. It's just a very simple activity. You use your phone, you find the caches, upload them to your phone, and then go out and physically find them. GeoScenting, we sent the caches. One of the things that I did when we moved to Tennessee is I found a company, and there are companies all over the country. I picked this one simply because it's about 150 miles up the road. Um, they make these scented stickers. You remember? I remember this when I was a little kid. Like
Yeah,
we'd
like the
go,
scratch and sniff one.
yeah. Well, I would go to
Or the
a
scented
department store with my mom, and
for
uh,
perfume.
and she would have her perfume on. And I used to hate this because she would say, "Let me see your arm," and she would spray like perfume on my
Based
arm
on
so
little
she could
girl.
smell it. She didn't want my arm, to mess up her perfume, so I was her guinea pig, and I used to hate that. It's like, "Oh, mom, I'm a guy. I don't wear perfume," and she would do that. Well, then they made the little stickers on the top of the boxes
Right.
where you could go in, and just sniff it, and the smell was there. You didn't have to put it on your arm or whatever. And so when I would go buy perfume for Karen, or like go to some of the stores, what is it, Bath and Body Works or whatever, which is like heaven for her. And I'd go pick up stuff. I know what she likes because she likes that stuff where, like, I would tell her, one of the things I love it when she's getting ready, in the morning, and she's gotten out of the shower and she's getting dressed and stuff, and I can smell that smell, and just like I flutter, I get a flitter when I smell that. It's just so cool. So I know those smells where you can go in there now and you can, they have stickers and you can smell them and smell what it smells like. And so I called this company and said, "Hey, could I get a sticker made and for clove oil?" And they're like, "Sure, not a problem." And so they sent me this sticker, and there was like 200 of them on this card, and it only cost me like $20, $25. It's cheap because what we used to have to do is we would do like a drop, on the bottom of the cache or whatever.
Right. I was going to ask you how
And
you
yeah,
introduced the
that's
scent.
what we would do. And the drop, and it lasts for a long time. We were doing some tests in Fort Worth, and dogs were finding caches that had been scented like a year and a half before, and with a drop on there. So the sticker lasts a long time. I've had people finding the stickered cache for a long time. In fact, I need to find my sheet because I'm going to need it this weekend. I stuck it somewhere. I'm not sure where it is. I'll find it. Worst case scenario is I'll use the drops. But the thing I don't like about that is it is an oil, and I don't want people to get it on their hands and stuff like that. So I'll try to put it in. I've even put it on the location. Like if the cache, say, was hidden in a hole in a tree or something, I pull the cache out, put it on the location, put the cache back in there like that. Um, so it's not even actually on the cache. There's a bunch of ways to do it. The sticker is the best way I've found, though, because you pull it off the sheet, put it on the bottom of the cache, and it doesn't transfer if you touch it or anything. I really love that idea. But that's one of the things you can do.
I just love
Um,
this.
oh,
Or
it's
that
neat.
you, that you could set it up, like neighbors could set them up in their neighborhood or in the local park.
Man, if you have play friends, like I'm not a dog park guy. I don't like dog
Yeah, I'm not
parks
either,
because
but
a lot of problems. Like I'll go train at dog parks outside the dog park, and I'll use it as a
distraction.
distraction for my
Then you won't
dogs.
even if
I'll
a
do
dog
that.
fight's happening
Yeah,
over there
and in fact, I've had to rush and put my dog up and go help people
and
break up
go
a
help.
dog fight
Yes,
before.
me
I hate
too.
that.
Yes,
But I'm not a dog park guy, but I am a play friend guy. Like I have students that have dogs that I know are cool that I can introduce my dog to and stuff like that. I have a 3-second rule, basically say hello, and that's pretty much it. If any play is involved, it's in a certain area, and I will practice my recall out of play and all that
right.
stuff. I won't do it until I start to get my recall in place and all that. But if you have that play group in place, man, you can just do this stuff in your backyard. You can do it to set up, but then the geoscenting, take
And
your
I
dog
wonder if
on
you could do it
vacation
on
with
like a
you.
disc golf course.
Yeah, you could, except a lot of those courses have signs up that say no dogs.
Oh, see here, people say
Yeah,
different all
because
the time.
like the oldest disc golf course in the entire United States, actually in the world, is Bud Hill, and it's 200 yards from our house.
Oh, too funny.
It's it's like right down the road. It's Bud Hill because I got to tell you something. This is kind of funny. It's called Bud Hill, and I was like, I didn't know why it was Bud Hill until I talked to a guy that used to play when he was in high school. He said, "Yeah, that's where we used to put our pot on the back of a frisbee and roll our joints and smoke joints out on the course. So that's why they named it Bud Hill." I never knew. And I mean, I was so naive that, everybody would talk about it. I had no idea why they called it Bud Hill, but that was why they called it Bud Hill anyway.
That's
But it's the
too funny.
oldest one in the United States, and it's like a national landmark.
Nice.
It's on a places to visit when you're in Memphis list, kind of deal.
Well,
And
I know that you guys were conflicted about leaving Texas and that the move has been in some ways challenging.
it's been
Uh,
very
I
challenging.
I personally am overjoyed that you guys are that many states closer
Yeah,
because I have always said that if I wanted a mentor trainer, I would choose you and Karen. And
excellent,
now you guys are closer, right? So
excellent.
I always learn new things when I talk to y'all, and you've really made my world brighter in a whole host of ways. So I will absolutely have you back on, and I am going to learn how to geocache
Well,
and
and I tell
order
you
some
what,
stickers,
if
and let's
let
see
your
if we can get this
students
going.
see this, and if they're interested about me coming down or something, let's
We'll do a
organize
seminar.
something.
And
I'd
I
love to
haven't,
come down and spend a weekend with you guys, and
so
let's make it happen.
Karen and I have a common friend in Anderson, South Carolina, who
Uh-huh.
does AKC and
Yep.
NAW, whatever, Scentwork. And I wonder if she's heard of the the
If
GeoScenting.
it's who
And
I
if we
believe you're
could,
talking about, I think I've already talked to her about it.
and
So
then we
yeah,
could maybe do like some sort of combo where
sure,
we get everybody together so that we have places to visit and friends
yeah,
in the community. So
yeah.
I'm stoked at this idea, and I'm so delighted that I finally got to sit down one-on-one with someone who I have held in very high esteem for over a decade, who I had never actually met previously.
Well,
So
just
thank you.
remember this. If I could say anything else to add to this, and this is so huge, um, whatever you're training, especially if it's a new venue, like you're imprinting odor for the first time, um, trust the training, trust the science. Trust the training, trust the science.
Well, and trust your dog.
Whenever I start to get flustered and things aren't moving as fast as I think they should move, I take a step back and I breathe and I remember trust the training, trust the science, and and learn the science. If you're not using the science will use you. Because I don't care how you train. I've never been in the camp of, well, I'm a science based trainer, because baby, it is all science based.
Yeah.
We might not know what science is being used, but it is there. And if you don't use the science, I will guarantee you that the science will use you. So just trust the training and trust the science.
Well, thank you so much for making
You
time.
bet.
And yes, I absolutely want to schedule to have you on again so we can talk about dog scouts, because I
All
think
right.
that's a phenomenal idea that
Yeah,
I want
that's
to learn
cool.
more about
Sure.
too.
Sure.
So thank you so much for being with us, Bob. In the show notes, I'll include links to geocaching and I'll see what I can find on GeoScenting, and also include Bob's email. So if anyone is interested in learning more or having a greater conversation, we can do that. And thank
Okay.
you so much for spending time with us. And again, thank you for all you do for dogs and their people, and for the United States, because I don't think that that can be understated.
Well, like I say, it was a blessing to get to serve. So, but anyway, just, yeah, let me know. I'll be happy to get back with you.
Awesome.
Thank you again for spending the time to talk to me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for spending part of your precious day with us. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to follow, rate, subscribe so that you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media or email us at yourfamilydogpodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you soon.